What's up everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are at LabWorks Development in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and we're finally getting my car tuned. The guy tuning my car is Cleo. He's the one who tuned it last time. We didn't get to finish it because the clutch was slipping at 17 pounds. I've done the clutch, I've done drivetrain bushings, I've done an aero separator, a radiator, and a bunch of other stuff since I was here last. So this should be making around 300 wheel, which was what the goal was the previous time. But yeah, we're finally here, waiting for him to finish tuning this Evo that's on the dyno, and then we could get to it. So I'm looking forward to see what powers we make, and I'm looking forward to having my car as reliable as it can be. So let's get to it. Still not going up. Boost isn't? What could that be?
Either the solar node or the controller. But it's doing nothing. It was at, duty cycle was like at 40%. See this one at the 40?
Yeah.
See this one at 67? I jacked it up to 67, but nothing. Maybe a boost leak or something?
Could check.
That is doing shit. Like it doesn't go up not 1 pound.
What's the boosted at right now?
14 and a half pounds.
14 and a half. Yeah, I haven't seen it go more than that when I've been driving it lately either. And I remember it was at 17. So right now we're having a boost leak because it's only making 14 pounds even when he cranks it up. We're gonna pressurize the system and see what the deal is there. Hopefully it's only that and not a solenoid or the boost controller, but we'll see. Is that where I think it is? Right here? No.
But enough time it starts to show his face.
Yeah. Because I see some smoke here. Okay. Blow off out? It's only 2.9 pounds.
It's already leaked.
Still smoking.
Like the throttle body.
Yeah.
Right?
Look at this.
Oh, there you go.
That'll do it.
That's one.
You have another nipple? Probably.
Maybe.
That's definitely one. Yeah, it looks like the throttle body, at least over here. Alright, so on the dyno, as you saw, we had some problems. Basically, Cleo was turning the boost up and it wouldn't hold more than 14 pounds because there was a boost leak. Turns out there was a boost leak at the blow-off valve, which I'll show you when we go to my car, as well as at the throttle body right near the sensor, which means the O-rings along the shaft of the throttle body are busted. So here in this box we have those parts and more in order to get my car where it should be. So right here we have some leftover 2.5 inch pipe, which we're going to use to replace that blow-off valve. Right here we have a Turbo Smart race port. Obviously mine was leaking. Nice and pretty. So that's gonna have to get welded on, as well as replace where the old one was. Right here we got a throttle body. This actually happens to be from a 92 Subaru Legacy from the States. The only difference between this and the JDM one off of my car is this has a cruise control slot for the cable. Other than that, coolant ports are in the same spot. TPS, same spot, same amount of pins, same vacuum port up top, facing the same way. So hopefully this one's good. If not, we'll take apart the one that's leaking and try to rebuild it. And then, so my tuner also said so he has better control over the boost. He wants me to wire the boost solenoid into the factory harness so that he can control it from the computer. That means on the True Boost gauge that I have, we're going to be losing the functions of having different maps to change the boost level. So he said if I want to keep that function, and that's crucial to me, to get a whole separate gauge from BTI. It's a 3.5 inch touchscreen display which shows you everything you need to know. Instead of having a bunch of separate gauges, we'll have this one screen. Also, considering he wants the boost, the boost solenoid wired into the computer or this factory harness, he wants to have the oil pressure gauge wired into the ECU, as well as having the O2 sensor wired into the ECU. So everything will be read from the ECU. He has better control over it, and then we'll have the BTI display to show you exactly everything we need to see. So that's what we got right here. This is the BTI gauge. This thing is pretty cool. It's small, discreet, nothing really going on. So he didn't want me to have an external brain for it because he said it's easier just having it a part of the screen. So here, as you can see real quick, it has the back like a normal gauge. So this one is actually for a Toyota Supra, if you order it off of their site, for a Haltech ECU. See, little screen, nothing crazy. Let's say here's the steering column. We're just gonna have this one little screen and then the factory cluster behind it. If you look on top, there's a shift light, which is cool. This is touchscreen. It has 12 different maps for boost settings. You could have traction control settings. You could have a bunch of stuff set up on this. It shows you everything you need to know from AFR, oil pressure, and even E85 content, and I believe there's a fuel level. It also will show you RPM and what gear you're in. And what gear you're in, which is kind of cool. So this will let me get rid of all the other gauges, put back the factory center console, and I'll have all the maps I want for different boost levels. So like I said, this is for a MK4 Supra with the centered back, and then we got the 4-pin harness which will get wired into the ECU. So that's that. And then for the O2 sensor, we got the AEM X Series inline wideband controller, which gets which gets wired directly to the ECU instead of a gauge. So this is going to go in instead of that one AFR gauge I have on the steering column, which will then be able to be read on this little display, which is cool. So this has to get wired in, this has to get wired in, the boost solenoid and the oil pressure gauge have to get wired into the ECU. Put the blow-off valve on, the throttle body on, and then hopefully that'll hold more boost. Only looking for like 20-21 pounds, give or take. But that's everything we have, and let's get this blow-off valve put on and welded, the throttle body put on, then we'll take all this to Cleo. He'll wire it up and get the car tuned. So let's hope it all works. As you see, we got the old blow-off valve cut off. That's why this little piece was welded in, and then this is the new flange for the Turbo Smart blow-off valve. So this is ready to go back in the car. Next is the throttle body, which I showed you guys yesterday. We'll get that put on the car, and I didn't show you this, but right here I got a pressure tester for the turbo system, so we'll make sure this new throttle body and the blow-off valve can hold probably around 25 pounds, and if that's all good, then we could go to the dyno, bring all this stuff with us, and have Cleo wire this in, so then we can finally make power. But first things first, throttle body, new intake pipe with the blow-off valve, pressure test, and then go from there. So there we go. Let's get this baby on the car. There we go. Perfect. And it has wiggle room. That's great. Alright, so new blow-off valve is on. As you can see, no longer hitting the idle air control valve, which is why that section is there to replace where the old one was. New throttle body. Hopefully this won't leak. Last time it was leaking out of the sensor side, and it was leaking out of the vacuum port of the blow-off valve, so that's fixed. Also, like I said, now there's finally clearance for the washer fluid and the oil cap, not hitting that. And then it just looks clean. You got the polished, you got black, so it's getting there. So right here's the kit I got from Amazon. It's fairly simple. This goes on a coupler onto your intake side, and then you have the quick release for the hose they supply you, and then a quick release for the actual compressor. The silicone and hose clamps you have to get yourself. I actually had this one for my old intake, which happens to be the perfect size for the new one as well. So we're going to be using this, but let's go put it on the car and see if there's any leaks. I have the system all set up. I had to put some Teflon tape on the quick release adapter. First, accidentally the valve was adjusted and there was too much pressure, which made this pop off. So just be careful of that. Definitely check what pressure the valve is at before you mess with anything. I heard a leak from the Mac valve. It just happened to be this little clamp down here, which is the boost reference from the intake manifold. I fixed that up, no longer leaking. And now I hear a leak from over here. There was one under this coupler, which I tightened, and then I still hear one from underneath. I hope it's not anything related to the internals of this throttle body, because if so, that's gonna be a bummer, and I'm gonna have to continue doing research. But I have this up to about 10 psi, so you hear it going through the system. Right when I shut it off, you can hear a little hissing over here. So I got to figure out where that's coming from and then go from there. So I have the pressure set to 12 psi right now, and when I shut it off, you hear the hissing here, and when I move the throttle, I hear the hissing change tone, so I feel like it might be a seal in here. Only way to know is use a smoke machine, put some smoke in the system, and see where the smoke leaks out. So that's going to be my next test.